Hello and welcome to another episode of the Great Guns podcast with your host, James Scott. And welcome today to Steve, who served 24 years in the army and then, as he puts it, jumped ship to the world of civilian employment and now runs his own health and safety concern. So we'll get into all of that. Welcome to the show, Steve.
No, thank you very much, James. It's good to be here.
Brilliant, brilliant. So yeah, we're having quite a bit of a chat just before we started. So it's like let's get this going. So as I always generally do, is we kind of start at the beginning. And 24 years, that's quite an length of service. Was the military always on the cards? Was it a family business, or was it something that you kind of
Yeah,
dreamt
I
up that
mean,
you wanted to do?
the army's always been part of my life because my dad, he was in the army. So we kind of bounced around between Germany and UK. He was
Ah,
in the
okay.
Royal Artillery. Then sort of I've always kind of had it in me, and I didn't join till quite late. I didn't join till I was 23 because I wanted to. Well, to be honest, I was a bit of a rogue when I was a kid, and I didn't know if I could handle the discipline to going into the army and somebody telling me what to do, without actually get myself in trouble or get myself in a scrap or a fight or something. So I joined the TA at the time, or now known as reservist, and test the water to see how if I can handle the discipline, and actually really enjoyed it. I did that for 2 years, so sort of like from the age of sort of like 17, 19 to just close to 22, and then decided to join the regular army at 23. And then
Yeah.
24 years later.
And just because you were talking about being, you weren't sure about the discipline. Was your dad not kind of strict like at home, like military wise, or was he kind
Oh,
of chill?
definitely. Yeah, he was definitely, definitely strict, proper old school. He always stayed away from him. He's in trouble war. But he passed away when I was at age sort of like 15. So I had a bit of a gap between then and obviously joining. And I wasn't too sure if I was mature enough to join the army at the time. And I went a bit roguey, and I got in a bit of trouble now and again and stuff. And but I've always wanted to do it. But that is the only thing that's kind of stopped me at the time. But I'd done the TA. I really enjoyed it. Met a good few friends in there. Had a good laugh. I went to the Central Islands and stuff with them. The old 2 week camps. And then I
Yeah,
thought, right, yeah, this is actually for me. And and applied for the regulars. So that was me for 24 years. But yeah, that's how
yeah,
I kind of got into it, really.
yeah. And so, who did you serve with?
So in the regular army, so I served the Royal Artillery. So I started off with 26 Regiment Royal Artillery. They're based out in Gütersloh in Germany. Absolutely brilliant time there, especially as a young soldier in the centre of Europe, in the middle of Germany. So where the bars don't close, you get 24-hour bars and stuff. Not that I'm saying I was an alcoholic,
Oh,
but we
no,
had a
no,
good
no.
time, put it that way. And then sort of done 4 years in Germany. Then we moved our battery at the time moved over to UK to 19 Regiment Royal Artillery. They're back here in Larkhill, and then from Larkhill to Tidworth, then back to Larkhill. And then my last sort of 3.5 years, I went back to 26, and then moved the regiment from Germany back over here to Larkhill. So the two
Oh
places
wow.
really I've kind of been bouncing about from,
Yeah, I was
in
just saying that's
between
quite
all
a
the
bit of
tours and
bouncing around.
stuff.
Was your TA, was it also with Royal Artillery, or was it a different
No,
regiment?
it was originally, it's a bit of a mix really, because it started off as Royal England, because that was my local TA unit. I've lived in Colchester at the time. So we
Okay.
started off there, and then about 6 months later, they changed to the RLC, you know, uh, and then that's how I got to be honest, that's how I got my driving licenses. That's where I got my
Yeah.
HGV
Okay.
license, to be honest. But I had a great time with them. I did sort of like 3 and a bit years with them, and I went to the Ascension Islands. We'd done the odd 2 week camps and done a bit of venture training. And obviously, they're now known as a reservists, but it's at the time as Territorial Army, and it's fantastic. And that's what kind of encouraged me to join the regulars.
Yeah.
Because
Out of
we had it.
interest, because I must admit, I was in the reserves as well. Well, the TA back in the
Yeah,
day, and I look back at my experience, and I was like, the reason I left was because I think quite a few of us just got fed up with the there's no kind of direction really. And this is not to have a dig, but then when they started kind of rebranding towards reserves, they really kicked up the game. But did you find it like that as well? Or
not really. I mean, I was only a young lad, so I just got told what to do, and I just followed. So it's fairly simple for me, to be honest. I didn't have to think. I just have to do. Tell me to jump
Yeah,
on, and I jumped. That was it. So I wasn't involved in any planning or kind of any organizing because I was just a private. I
yeah.
had my driving licenses and I had my motorbike license of being RLC. I rode the old Harley Davidsons, kind of escorting the trucks about, and
I
jumped in
mean,
the Bedford trucks at the time, and just done a few little exercises. So I
yeah,
didn't really know what I was doing. I was just, good old private, private Mullan, didn't know what he's doing. I just got told and just did it. I didn't
yeah.
get any rank or anything from it. I just kind of just enjoyed my time whilst I was in there.
And did you find it quite a big step change between the TA then and going into regular?
For the basic training side, I found very easy because I already knew all the stuff, and I kind of
Mm,
helped. When I've kind of left and then done start basic training, I always already knew how to handle weapons. I knew how to march. I knew how to do all that sort of thing. Because that basic training bit is kind of that transition is fairly simple, and I helped a lot of people getting through that because I already had that knowledge. But going
yeah,
into regimental life, yeah, it's completely different. And back then, when you're looking at '96, it's a lot different to what it's soldiering now. Again, you did as you're told, and you didn't answer back, and all that sort of thing. But it's very, very different. Whereas the reservist at the time, I found is a little bit more open, a bit more friendly. But then I joined the regulars, a bit old school, and you got told, and then off you went, rather than actually being asked. So there was a difference. There was definitely.
yeah. Okay, interesting. All right. So you did the 24 years, and you left. So it was a 2020. You said
Yeah,
when you,
2020, September 21st, 2020. Day I'll never
yeah,
forget.
yeah. I'm sure. I'm sure. And so, kind of, what brought you to the decision that, like, right, this is, obviously, I mean, it was a great length of career. I mean, but what was that kind of right? It's time to move on, or
Well, there's loads of factors, and one of the factors was, I mean, going back to earlier on in my career when I was a tech sergeant, I was very, very busy. My senior leadership team at the time wasn't very supportive. They didn't really kind of help. They lent on me and just kind of put loads of work on me, and that affected me quite well. So it stopped me sleeping and stopped me. Well, it kind of stressed me out quite a lot over 3 years, and it started to affect me as a person and my home life and how I was reacting. And then and I got promoted into a staff sergeant, and then I said, right, I'll never ever go to that stage again, in my life because it affected me so quite badly. And then I took over as the RQ tech role, which is in 2-6. So I got posted back out today. I got promoted as a sergeant major. And then the regiment was re-rolling. The regiment was then moving from Germany back to UK. And I was doing both RQ Tech and RQ Mate roles because the lad was leaving and he was staying in Germany. So it was quite stressful. So the move across back over to the UK, re-rolling from AS90 to MLRS, new camp, brand new camp, living out of Tin City, arrived back here in UK, went straight on a 6 weeks exercise whilst we're still taking over a new camp. It was absolutely crazy, crazy time. And I got offered what we call Veng, an extended at 2 years. And I was asked, would I go for commission? But at that point, I started seeing signs and symptoms of me going, I'm done. It got to the point, right? I'm going back to where I was in 2008 to 2012, and I don't want to go back that side. So I spoke to my boss and I said, look, I want to sign off. I've done my 22. I don't want to do the extra 2 years on top of what I need to do. And he tried to convince me, and they all tried, and even the commanding officer. And I went, I'm done. I'm tired. I'm done. So then I got poached to go to FTRS because COVID kicked in,
yeah,
and FTRS is obviously full-time reservist, and it was dropping a rank, but the bonus thing was even though I dropped the rank, I kept the same pay because when you go to a full-time reservist, I kept the same pay and I got my lump sum for my pension. So to be fair, I was quite happy with that because extra money and less work, getting
yeah.
paid the
No, I'm
same
sure.
money, and I thought, why wouldn't I? And initially I turned it down because I didn't want to drop the rank because I had to work really hard to get my sergeant major. And then and I dropped it and moved into the job. And basically what I was doing there is I was just white fleet management, just ordering hire cars for officers. So I've gone from running a camp to moving it, organizing high pressure job to just going onto a computer system, ordering a hire car for an officer. And at that point there, I went, that's brilliant. It allowed me to, for the 6 months, I kind of reset myself, de-stressed a bit. And then after that 6 months, I got bored. And I
Yeah,
went,
I'm sure.
I
I'm
don't think I
sure.
could do this anymore. I need to be more. I need more than this. But it was great for
Yeah,
that 6 months. And that's the reason why I left. I was getting a bit long in the tooth. I was getting a bit old and a bit broken. And then I thought, this is a young man's game. This is an 18-year-old. I'm not going to go running around with 18-year-olds anymore. Because my knees are knackered, my back's knackered, and I thought, "Ah, I'm done with the stress, and there's better. It's got to be a better life out there."
yeah,
But the thing is, I already started my own business. So from 2015, I had in my head, I got to go and run. I was initially going to start teaching first aid, and then that evolved into health and safety. So
yeah.
already from 2015, I had a plan in my head because I need to be able to do something when I grow up, as I used to say, and when I leave. So I already had a good solid plan from 2008 all the way through until I got out. That's when I started resettling. So
Okay. Oh,
I
right.
was always
That's
quite wise. I
quite
was
far
always
out.
quite wise.
Sorry?
I was always quite wise to kind of have that in process,
Yeah,
think you never know what's around the corner. Always got to prepare myself. If I
yeah.
do leave the military, there's a life out there. Yeah, because after 22 years, it's only 22 years of your life. Even though you say it's only, but it's a long time. But actually, it's not that long compared to if you live to 80. That's only a quarter of your life that you've done. So you've
Yeah, I
still got
think far
another.
too often people have got it in their their minds that, "Oh, if I leave, that, my life's over." Like, but no,
Yeah,
I mean, we are, what's the average age of people these days? It's probably like, 75, 80.
yeah. That's what I mean. It's only 22 years of that time. I know, all right, okay, minus your childhood, but you still got half your life left.
Mm,
And I always had that mindset because I didn't join till late, So I did a bit of Civvy Street before I joined the military. I didn't join until I was 23, so I had a experience, doing real outside work, should I say? And then I joined the military. I had a great career, and I achieved everything I needed to achieve. But I always had the mindset: this something's going to happen afterwards. I've got to move on somewhere afterwards. And if you had to turn around and said, "Would you be doing health and safety, Steve?" Asked me that 15 years ago, I would have said a few choice words. You go, "Not a
yeah, yeah,
chance, mate," and a few other bits. I think right job to earth and all that sort of thing. But and how I fell into it is I got voluntold. The good old thing, getting voluntold by EQM. So it's a
yeah,
case of my QM. I was a BQMS at the time, well, people known as CQMS, as a staff sergeant. He come up to me, go, "Steve, we've got a health and safety inspection in 5 to 6 weeks' time. We haven't done it for about 5 years, and you're the man." And I looked at him and I went, "I don't know anything about risk assessments, boss. I don't know anything about policies." I said, "I don't know an environmental MSAS." I looked at him and go, "What do you want me to do?" He goes, "I'm sure you can make it work." That good old fashioned goes, "Yeah, make it happen, mate." Yeah. All right. Okay. And I literally went away to loads of people's different kind of sites at different regiments, cut and pasted policies, cut and pasted risk assessment. Didn't have a clue what I was doing. I had an inspection. And one thing that the army has taught me is you know how to blag. You know how to cook books and make things work. And I
yeah, yeah,
literally just blagged my way through an inspection, passed it. And he handed me at the end, they said, "Well done, you've got best practices and all this." I still don't know how I did it. And my QM at the time turned around and goes, "Look, here's a bottle of Morgan Spice, mate. Here's your tipple. Thank you very much." And he goes, "Well, you pull the blinder." I went, "Right, okay." And from there, I went, maybe this is a place that I can go down. Maybe this is an avenue that I can start working towards when I get out of the army. And I turned around and said, "Can I go and do the QM's course? The health and safety one." And it's like, no brainer. Yeah, off you go, mate. He shooed me along.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, go do the course because I was doing his work for him. So I'd done the 2-week course down in Deep Cut. And I thought, okay, that's not too bad. And I actually quite enjoyed it for some strange reason. I thought, this isn't as bad as I thought it'd be. And then I'd done my NEBOSH General, Fire, Construction, Environmental. So I'd done the full suite of them. And then my MVQ level 6. And I just suddenly started kind of climbing that ladder. It's And it's quite scary, really, when I look back on it, because when I was at school, I was pretty bad at school. It's when I'd done my English and maths test. You get the part when you get your promotion, you have to do a bit of a level 2 test, and they initially test you. And I was age 6 English and maths at age 36, right? And that's how kind of illiterate I kind of was, because I didn't really take any notice at school. I didn't really. I was all hands on, getting on with work, and then I done my level 2 English and maths that week, and I passed them. And from there, it's the instructor. It's this lovely lady, Sandra. I'll never ever forget her the rest of my life. It's the way she put it across to me, and the way she explained, how to do, fractions, how to do areas and volumes. I didn't have a clue at the time, and she taught me, and she spent a bit of time. And from there, I went, do you know what? I've got a bit of a brain. And that's what led me to doing sort of like all these NEBOSH courses. Now I've got a degree level in health and safety, just
Yeah.
doing from that level 2 English and maths course,
Yeah, it's
which is
it's
quite
amazing
scary at
when
age
someone gives you an
36, so late in my
opportunity.
life. Yeah.
Yeah. You just need that person to kinda go, "I see you," you know,
Yeah,
"Let's work
yeah.
on it together." Yeah.
And that's what she did, and actually that turned my life turned it completely around. And then from there, I haven't stopped learning since. It's just been like a big climb, especially you run your business. You don't sleep again after that, I know that.
Yeah, that is quite a learning curve. Okay, so you were running that from 2015, so you're still in.
Yeah. So
So
I was
how
doing a
did
bit
you
of first
find
aid
that,
training and
juggling the
stuff.
2?
Say again?
How did you find it, juggling the 2? Like, being full-time and having kind of it on the side for so long. I mean, that's quite a while that you had it.
It is. It was on and off, but I've always been quite driven, to be honest with you. And I've always been quite determined. If I want something, and I've always been brought up, is that if you want something, you've got to work harder. You can get it. There's nothing going to stop anybody from achieving anything. If you want it, you can make it happen. So I started it by doing first aid and transitioning, teaching military people, okay, soldiers, to civilians, whole new world. So I attached myself to Wiltshire First Aid. So I contacted a lady called Emma Noakes, and I said to her, because look, I'd like to learn how to teach first aid. I said, I'd like to be able to do it for you, and I'm happy to do it for you for free. And I'll come in every weekend when you teach pediatric first aid to your students, so I can learn the ropes, and then I can then do a bit of first aid for you. And I sat down with her, had a bit of an interview. She's very impressed with all the qualifications, but qualifications doesn't give you the experience, so that's why I reached out to her. And as I
Yeah.
reached out to her, she is more than happy, and she's ex-police, so she's kind of the the blue light kind of element, and so she understood me and coached me, taught me. She's an absolutely amazing trainer, for first aid, and I learned a lot from it. And then from there, I started doing weekends, like freelance work for her. And then for other couple of companies, she put me in a couple of other ones where I was doing on a Saturday or Sunday kind of training. And then sort of building up my experience. And part of that is start reaching out and start networking and talking to people and just running courses for families, just the local area in Larkhill or in Germany when people wanted pediatric first aid courses. So I kind of just run them almost in-house as such, but to civilians. So it wasn't a lot of work, but it was enough because I was already working. So I was able to kind of go out maybe once or twice a month to do it. I wasn't able to do it every weekend because I still had a family life to live, because I had 2 small children at the time. So I
Yeah.
still had to kind of try and balance that. So that was a little bit tough at times, but I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. And the wife enjoyed it because she's getting the extra pennies.
Yeah, no, it's all good. But I suppose also the fact that it's such a break from what you were doing, that must have had quite an impact on kind of your kind of stress levels and your mental health point of view, that break from what you were doing. I mean, were you doing anything else? Like, were you keeping active? Did you pursue any kind of sports and things outside of your day-to-day activities,
Well,
if you like?
yeah, I did the old mountain biking. I did a bit of that for a while.
Okay.
That turned to quite a kind of expensive hobby, because it's
Yeah.
one of those hobbies where you start off with a small bike, then eventually you're spending a couple of £1,000 on a bike.
Yeah, there's always something more that you want.
I'm
Yeah.
a sucker for it. I'm terrible, but so I did that for a good 10 years or so. mountain biking. I used to love doing that. I used to do charity events and stuff, riding from
Okay, so there was that other
Birmingham
side
down to
giving you
London.
that, yeah, that kind of break with it. Yeah, because
I
I
say
mean,
a break.
I do freelance teaching as well, and I love the fact that it's not always the same course. It's different course, different area, different people. Because that keeps me a little bit like sane, if you like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that was tough when I first started the business because I was working from the shed. Yeah, they're back of the house in the shed in the freezing cold in the winter. But now, I've managed to reach the dizzy heights of getting an office. So
yeah,
I'm actually going to work now instead of staying at home.
yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean,
So then,
that's
how did? Sorry,
go on.
I was just saying.
No,
So
no,
how did you transition into to then deciding that maybe the first aid wasn't it, and you would go down the health and safety route?
more money, to
Okay.
be honest. And to be honest, I enjoyed it a little bit more
Yeah,
because even though you do first aid, you could do pediatric first aid, you could do first aid at work, and you could do defib. It's all the same. And if I was to do that day in, day out, I'd get bored.
yeah,
Whereas I can mix it up. I can still deliver first aid. I can deliver NEBOSH courses. I can deliver IOSH, working at height, working with chemicals. I can go out on site and do consultancy work because that's, I look after 41 companies in total. So I go out to all these different companies and do consultancy, as in doing the audits and inspections or providing them training at the same
yeah,
time. So I have that kind of bit of a mix between the both, between doing health and safety consultancy and the training. But things that seem to be more evolving towards the training element at the moment, relating to things like your NEBOSH courses, which kind of works really well for me.
yeah. Okay. So when you left and you were running, now you're running the company.
Yeah,
What was that? What was that feeling like the day you realized, shit, I'm out on my own now?
it was definitely a 5 pence, 50 pence moment, right? Squeaky bum time. And
Yeah,
it really, really was because I decided when I was in the FTRS, this is not for me. And it wasn't enough. And I turned around and said to my boss, look, I'm done. I need more than this. And he goes, okay, I understand. So I signed off. So I had 6 months. In that 6 months, I had one client. Okay. And, right to begin with. So I signed off. I had 6 months to think, right, I need to get some work. And so, I, you know, when I pressed the buttons, the old 7 clicks to freedom, as they call it, I then had that moment go, what have I done? And I really did think that. I thought, oh no, is this the right move? Should I have done this? Should I have played it safe? I know I've got a good wage coming in every month, pay my mortgage, it's it's putting food on the table and all that. And and I thought I have to take the plunge. I have to go into Civvy Street at some point. And and I didn't have any work as such. And it wasn't until I started somebody told me about LinkedIn because I didn't really know anything about LinkedIn. And somebody told me about LinkedIn. It's like the business Facebook to be able
yeah,
to get your team, reach out to people, network, grow yourself, and then you could potentially get a job from it. And so I did that. So I created my profile on LinkedIn, and I put my CV and stuff on there. And I was told put a little post up now and again, your little achievements, because people see that. And I just completed an ISO 9001 lead auditors course. And I just put it up there. And it's an old friend of mine that I haven't seen for about 15 years or spoke to for about 15 years. And he's seen my post. And he runs a health and safety business in Aldershot. And I live in Amesbury, just down near Salisbury. And he reached out and goes, Steve, how you doing, mate? I said, yeah, not too bad. He goes, look, I run a health and safety business. Oh, dear. He goes, I can throw you ad hoc work if you like. I went, winner, brilliant.
yeah,
And I'd done the low key level of consultancy where to go out to like a little construction site up in Devizes of Marlborough where they're digging up a road, putting giganet cables in, and just there like an audit sheet. It was nothing too taxing, and to go out there and do a bit of an audit. Now, I thought I knew stuff, about Alpha because I had all my qualifications, but to be honest, I didn't really know a great deal. I didn't have a lot of experience. And this guy called Matty Olden, so I've got a lot to thank him for, and I really do. So if he is listening, cheers, mate. And basically, he gave me 3 jobs a week to do, and it was paying £200 a day. And it wasn't a great deal of money, and I was traveling quite a lot. I thought, you've got to start from the bottom. You got to start from somewhere. So I went out, done these bits of consultancy, and I learned a lot from it over sort of like 2.5 years. Just ad hoc bits of work, whether it be in a factory, whether it be on a roadside, whether it be in a school or nursery. It's a variety of different kind of organizations, and I just did that, and I was doing it 3 days a week, £200 a day. And plus my pension, and that was enough for me.
Wow.
But I started up with a limited company as obviously SM Safety. I was a sole trader at the time, then traded to a limited. And I thought, right, 3 days a week, that means I've got another 4 days to grow the business, to try and get my own clients. And it's being active on LinkedIn, being active on Facebook, when people see you, and then a friend of a friend goes, I've got somebody that wants to do a bit of consultancy. Steve, you doing that, aren't you, mate? I said, yes, I am. Yeah. Goes, oh, we'll give you a job. And then from there, it's just bits and pieces. And then the word starts getting out, and then start kind of pushing myself out there. But it took a long while to get
Mm.
that going. But just like anything you do, it was nails to begin with, and the learning curve was vertical. It was so steep because I had to create a website. I've never touched a website. Didn't know about SEOs. I didn't know about marketing. I didn't know about bookwork. I knew how to do an inspection. That's it. I knew
Yeah.
how to write a report. All the other background business bits was overwhelming. But it's a case of sitting on YouTube every single night. I learned so much of YouTube. It's unbelievable. And talking to people, and obviously talking to Matty Oldham, and he coached me through a lot. And he must have had enough of me at the end. He goes, Steve, you ask so many questions because I was so inquisitive. I just want to know everything, just from the basics of what grade kind of steel toe cap boots should I wear? I know you're supposed to have
Yeah.
toe cap, but if you're going to go and work on a railway, then you have to meet a certain grade. I didn't know that, and so I was asking him little kind of stupid, simple questions. But you got to start somewhere, and I just kind of just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and 5.5 years later, I don't have to rely on anybody. I'm now look after 41 companies. I'm a NEBOSH Gold Learning Partner, the highest tier, and then
That's
delivering MVQ
fantastic.
level sixes and degrees. So it's from the age of 36 to I'm age 50 now, in that sort of like 14-year gap. I've done some learning,
Yeah,
but
I'd
it's
say.
if anybody is going to get into their own business, you have to put your life into it. You know, if you don't, you think it's just going to happen. It won't. You have to put in the hours. I was doing 18, 20 hours, and I'm still doing 16 hours now. But that's because it's an addiction, as a passion of mine. And you have to be passionate with your business if you want it to happen. If you go into a business and you're half-hearted, I it's the chances of it failing is it's a lot higher. So if anybody is leaving the military, you think, right, is it possible to run your own business when you leave? 100% yes. Right? 100%. But you've got to put your heart and soul into it. You've got to be prepared to put the hours in, put the time in, and want to learn and listen to people, and learn from your mistakes, because you will make money. And I've made money. I've done things I think, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I've wasted thousands of pounds on certain bits when I shouldn't have done. But it's keeping it driven. But the military give me that. The military give me that drive as well, because when you go on exercises and stuff, you always like kind of push you to the bits where sleep deprivation's in there, and you've got to just get on with it. That get on with it mentality, which all military personnel are amazing at, and they've got that drive, they've got the discipline, they get things done. And if you keep that with you and you use that to your knowledge, your advantage when you're running a business or when you're stepping out into the civilian world, people will snap you up. And I see a lot of military personnel have this kind of imposter syndrome, right? Where they turn around and they don't think they're good enough. But actually, mate, you've got to sergeant major level, you've got the sergeant level or lance bombardier or lance corporal level, right? That means you're trusted to look after people. You've been given the training, you've been trusted to do this for a reason. And actually, if you take that values, what you've been taught, what you've lived through in the military career, and bring it into civilian world, yeah, people look at you and go, wow, this guy or girl is all over this. They're driven. And people kind of gravitate towards that, and you see that drive. But you've got to believe in yourself as well a little bit. And it's tough because you've gone from an environment where you've spent 24 years almost institutionalized to a certain degree, a way of doing things, the way to talk, the way you act, and then stepping out in the civilian world where you have to watch your P's and Q's. You can't go effing and jeffing anymore and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, well,
You don't pass go, you don't collect 200, you get shown the door. So that bit there is a bit of a tough transition. We've gone from that side
yeah,
to that. And I've learned many little lessons from corporate, certain sayings that you can't say because you think you know, it's, you think it's not inappropriate, but to them it is inappropriate, so so you do have to watch a little bit of that. That's the bit of the difficult bit where I find that people found difficult transitioning.
yeah,
So, from that though, I mean, where I go down, when I've gone down that line, and is my passion is obviously my business, what I do, and I love it. But I've now gone down the line of working with John Stevenson for the Forces Transition Group, is supporting service leavers. Because when you're leaving, it's scary, it's daunting, and it's the unknown and how to deal with different types of people, and it's very, very scary. And I went through that, and I've gone through the stage of running a business and listening to corporate people and so on. And but for me, my passion now is when I'm delivering courses is translating your language, what you know as JSPs, what you know as RASPs and PAM 21 when you're running ranges, use documentations,
yeah,
how maybe run an armory or running your stores, the military terminology. I try and convert that into civilian language. So when you go to step out into Civvy Street, you know what they're talking about, you know, and you know how to talk to them. So I do my best to try and translate that. And do you know what? It really, really works because in the military, everything's process driven. Okay. Everything's process. You get told what to do. This is black and white. This is what you follow. I
yeah,
often say exactly the same. It's black and white. It's process driven. And it's a natural progression for soldiers to step in that. And that's why you find a lot of soldiers or military personnel or blue light personnel, service personnel, should I say, okay,
yeah,
would be, is they find it easy to step into that role because it's natural, because you've been bred into it for how many years in the military. And I try and convert that across. That's what I love doing because when I first did it, I had help of Matty Oldham. He's ex-military, but he'd left about 15 years prior to me. And he coached me and he brought me on. And I've got massive thanks to him for that. But now I love doing that myself, is bringing military into civilians and actually getting a message and an email. Say, Steve, mate, thank you very much. That's a brilliant course. I've got a job on the back of this course, and I've now stepped into the NHS, delivering health and safety for the NHS
yeah,
because of its qualifications, and for me, that's the best part of my job, to be honest. That's what I love, that
yeah.
kind of
And
factor.
it is, yeah, when you were talking earlier about the imposter syndrome, it is, I think a lot of that's driven by the fact that you speak a different language. I mean, if you think you go to, well, I won't say Germany, but you go to Portugal, you're going to feel like, well, I don't belong here because you don't speak the same language. And it is exactly that. Like, and it
Yeah,
is translating exactly what you're talking about, rasps and things. Yeah. Well, we know what that means, but the civilian world doesn't. But as soon as they understand what it means, they go, oh yeah, but that's, and they'll have a term for it. And it's
yeah.
getting that knowledge, across and understanding it and speaking. And when I do training, so not necessarily service leavers, but other individuals, I'll say to them, you need to understand what industry you're going into and understand how they speak. And that's from a civvy in a civvy world. So yeah, for someone coming from the military, it's going to be very, very hard.
Yeah, because
But like
because
I did like what you said about LinkedIn. Yeah, getting that networking going there and that, and then you learn how people talk, and you can start to suss it out there already before you've even left.
well, I had a guy last night message me. I think it was about 10 o'clock at night, and I always reply to him. Yeah, get some sucker for it. I've got my phone on, and he replied, "Goes, Steve, I'm getting a job next week. I done my NEBOSH course in 2016. I need a refresher. Can you do refreshers?" And he's literally he did it so long ago, but he's in the military, just about to step into civilian world. He goes, "Can we have do you do refresher courses?" I said, "Mate, I'm happy to have a chat with you." So tonight, he's busy at the moment, until 5 o'clock tonight. He goes, "Can I have a chat?" I said, "Yeah, of course we can." And I'll spend an hour with that chat, just talking through bits to prepare him to go into the job role. I don't get paid for it, but I don't mind doing it. I'm quite happy to help guide people because it doesn't cost me anything. It's just talking and
Exactly.
giving them kind of a bit of a steer, bit of a reminder, a bit of a refresher. It's sort of a good hour or so, and then show them a few examples of bits and pieces, paperwork, and you go, "Oh yeah, yeah," and you go back into it, and hopefully that then give them the confidence when they start their new role is go, "Actually, I do know what I'm talking about and know what I'm doing."
Yeah.
And that's what and I don't mind doing that. I quite enjoy it, and people turn around and that word gets out. Yeah, yeah. Speak to Stevie Mullan. He knows what he's talking about. He'll help you. He's a good lad, and before you know, that helps me as a business, but it also helps service leavers kind of do that transition.
Mm.
And that's what I base my business on. To be fair, is help people to transition from the military into their day-to-day work when they get out, whether it be a managerial role doing an e-bosh course because everybody needs that level of qualification, or you go into health and safety itself,
Yeah.
so it's, and it's because it's scary, like anybody leaving, it is scary. Have I got the ability? Because just going back to sorry, I think it's relevant to what you're saying there is when I first got my first health and safety consultancy job, and it's basically for a school, and it's from a friend of a friend's wife. Okay, whilst I was
Yeah.
serving. So his wife ran a school, well, as operations manager for the school, and they're looking after, or asking for somebody to go and do a health and safety audit. Would I like to do it? It's my very first one. And I said, yes, of course. And I was literally, you know, I didn't sleep the night before because I thought, because they had 4 caretakers there, they're all done their NEBOSH qualifications. Okay. And I thought they got many years of experience on top of what I've got looking after health and safety. And I'm going in there to do an audit and ask them questions. So I walked in and it's big grand kind of office. This is like a boarding school, and it's private boarding school. So they've got money. I walked to
Yeah.
this office. They had all leather chairs there. And the headmaster come up and approached me, posh as you like, and he goes, "Mr. Mullan, welcome." And he started doing a bit of introduction. Would you like a cup of tea? Would you like a biscuit? Now, this used to be me offering tea and biscuits because I used to be getting inspected. So the shoe was on the other foot, and I felt quite uncomfortable because I'm like, this is unnatural. It's normally
Yeah, I'm
me answering
sure.
the question. And he said, "Look, I've got the 4 guys out there. Ask them any questions that you want to, and go through the question set. They've all qualified. They've been in this school for many years, so they know it inside out." I said, "Okay, brilliant, no worries." So I went into this office and sat there, and I was like, "Oh my god, here we go." And yeah, and I started asking a series of questions. And one thing that the military taught me, and everybody can take this away, you can spot a blagger, right? You can't blag a blagger, right? So I blagged a lot of things in my army career, and you can see through it straight away. And I just asked a question about display screen equipment. Have you guys had a training? Have you had a risk assessment? Now, in the military, we got forced to do it. Do your DLE every year. Make sure you do that with training. Make sure you got your risk assessment next to your computer. The QM's going to walk around. If you haven't got it next to your computer, you're going to get slapped. And
Yeah.
so it's ingrained in you. So it's kind of forced into you. And I asked a question. It goes, "Have you done your DSE risk assessment?" "No, we don't need to do it." "Okay. Have you done your DSE training?" Because anybody using a computer for more than an hour, they have to do a bit of DSE training. It's a legal crime. No, we don't need to do it." I said, "But you're a school. You've got teachers that work on computers. You've got clerks. You've got the headmaster, and so on." He goes, No, we don't need to do it." So I went, red flag to me. And I went, okay. And I asked him a question. I said, "Can I have a look at your policies? And I want to have a look at your DSE policy." Because, yeah, we've got that. And he got the policy out and I flicked it over. And funny enough, the policy has obviously been written by somebody who knows what they're talking about because it started saying you have to do DSE training, you have to have a DSE risk assessment and all this. And policy stated it. And I turned around and said, "Well, your policy's saying different also." And I was really kind of polite. I wasn't telling that person that you're lying and all this sort of
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
because I was just
yeah.
listening, going along with it. And I thought, right, I need to prove this now. And the headmaster overheard this in the background. And and I turn around and goes, "Well, your policy states this," and I start writing my notes because part of the audit. And then
Mm.
about 15 minutes later, the headmaster come up to me and goes, "Steve, can I have a word, please?" In this very posh word. He goes, yeah, of course. He goes, "Come outside." And I walked outside and he goes, "Are those lot effing pulling your pants?" And he started swearing because he could see. And I was like, whoa, I was like,
Unexpected, yeah.
well, where's this come from? And I go, "Look," and I went, "All due respect, sir, because he's a headmaster, and I've
Yeah, yeah.
done this thing." And I said, "All due respect," I said, "the true findings will come out in the report and any recommendations." Said, like I said, this is not a witch hunt or anything. This is you asking me to go and do the audit, and I'm going to put the findings down so then you can act upon it and deal with it if necessary.
Mm.
And he turned around and said to me, he goes, "Steve, I really like you." And this is on a Thursday because I took the day off work because just to go and do this audit. I was still in the army. And he turned around and said to me, he goes, "What are you doing tomorrow morning?" Now, this is on a Friday morning where you have to do CO's PT. And I goes, "Why is that?" "Because I'd like to sit down with you and talk about the future of being the health and safety consultant for the school." I said, "Yes, I'm not doing anything tomorrow." And knowing that I had CO's PT and stuff. So I made up an excuse and said, "Look, I've got a dentist appointment." Okay. People believe me. I said, "I got a dentist appointment." I went down to the school, had the interview with the headmaster. And yeah, 5 years later or 6 years later, I was still doing a consultancy for the same school.
Wow.
But at that time, right that moment, at 5 pence, 50 pence moment, did I have enough experience? Did I have enough knowledge? Because I literally still in the army, still wet behind the ears in the kind of health and safety world. I'd just known the military version of it. But actually, I knew a lot more than what I knew. I knew how people react. I knew people, how they started blagging and stuff. And from there, I started gaining confidence. But before that, I yeah, I didn't sleep. The night before, I didn't sleep. I was going through all my books, works. I was going through the paperwork, making sure I knew the law bit. I studied all night, to make sure I knew what I was talking about, just in case they asked me a question.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I actually knew more what I knew from being in the army, what the army has
But
actually
that
taught
is
me.
the
Not what I
thing.
learned out of the textbook, what the army taught me.
Yeah, but that is
You
the
know,
thing that you have got skills just because it's in a very disciplined, very insulated environment, if you think about it, because it is army, coming out, it's still the same. People are the same,
yeah,
people, like you're
people are
saying,
people.
you can read people. So that is a skill you take with you. Just being aware of it and going, asking, right, we follow policies and procedures. Where's your policy and procedure? Right, here it is. Look,
Yeah,
it's in black and
yeah.
white. Yeah. And that's the same wherever you go, whether you're in civvy street or in service. So yeah, that
And that's
it
why
is a
it's
shame that
naturally
people,
for people to go into the health and safety world because it naturally fits. Not that it's not for
yeah,
everybody. Don't get me wrong, it really isn't for everybody. But actually, if you think about a career that you've gone from blowing stuff up, being in artillery to making sure everybody's looking after being safe, actually, believe it or not, fits hand in hand. It works really,
yeah,
really well because everything that you do, whether you're firing a rifle, or you're going to be firing big guns, or or eating rations, there's loads of health and safety that is inbred in you, and it's a natural kind of progression. So, but it's just translating that language into civilian language.
yeah,
That's the
yeah. That
key
is
part.
often the biggest hurdle. And it was interesting when you were talking about, like, you like to kind of pay it back, if you like, the amount of people that I've come across, service leavers from all of it, whether it be blue light or military service, the amount of people that are actually just willing to have a conversation with you. Just
Yeah,
going, "Yeah, I'm happy to help."
why
It's
not?
no skin off my back. Yeah, if I can help you, great. And I think people leaving should remember that you are stepping out and you're leaving, kind of your peers and your mates behind, but you're not, because they are out there. They're out there amongst us. And do you know what I mean? It's
When you get somebody coming up to you and asking you questions, and you got that really nervous moment, and actually once they get through that, just can't remember, you will always get through that stage. If you keep yourself driven a bit, you go through those stages, and when you eventually sat there as an operations manager, for example, you get up quite up there, you're managing people again, you're doing what you used to do, or going on these lines, is right. We need some health and safety training. Oh, I know, good guy, Stevie Mullan. You know, and actually, it's that network of people who you trust. So when you go out into the civil world and you're going to become a manager potentially, or running something, you need support. You need that network behind you. And when you grow it on LinkedIn, and that's how I did it. I grew it on
Yeah,
that network of people who you can just go, hey, James, I haven't got a clue about this bit. Can you give us a bit of a steer? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's this, Steve. Okay. Oh, cheers, James, mate. Yeah, lovely. Right, go back to your job. It's that still got that support and network in the background, even though you got
yeah,
your real, you're doing your day to day job. And that's how I've got through the last, 5, 6 years. Is having that
yeah,
network behind you and people you can rely on, and actually they can rely on you, and that kind of support bit, and the best way to grow it. The best way to grow yourself and become the person who you want to be and what the things you want to achieve when you get out into the big bad world, as I call it, Civvy Street.
yeah.
You know,
No, exactly. And I just hope anyone listening in is going through it. Just remember, there are loads and loads of people out there in City Street that are willing to help. They're willing to lend an ear, a bit of advice. There's no cost to it. There's no strings attached. It's just that's that's just what they do.
yeah.
So yeah,
Help
don't
if you
don't
reach out to me, I'm happy to help. Honestly, I really am.
yeah.
You know, I'm not going to do your job for you, though. Just saying, unless you're paying
No,
me. but I'm happy.
yeah, yeah, no,
But I'm happy
fair
to
enough.
help people and support people. So it's and
Yeah,
as and
no,
it would.
exactly. So, kind of coming to the end here, what's the future like for you then? Where's SM Safety going? Where do you see
Uh,
yourself going?
well, I'm taking on a service leaver full time. Okay. It's starting in sort of like September time. I've got a couple of service leavers doing work for me. Did a bit of IOSH management safety training, did a bit of consultancy already. So I'd like to continue to grow the company with the veteran background. Okay. As veterans. All right. Not just serving soldiers and military, but obviously civilian world. I can see myself branching out into the UAE area, like Dubai, Saudi Arabia, the Middle East area, because you've got a lot of expats out there as well, as in ex-military personnel out there
Yeah,
that's staying in Dubai, but Dubai is growing in health and safety. I still like to continue to grow within the UK, delivering the NEBOSH courses, because that's predominantly what I specialize in is the NEBOSH courses. And still working along with side with Forces Transition Group. I plan on being with them forever, and as long as they're running, I'm going to be running along with them, because I think
oh,
the
fantastic.
framework they got behind that support and service levers is amazing, and the results that they achieve for getting people jobs, and I want to be part of that still, and I like to grow with that with them. So it's I like to grow it. I'd like to still continue to grow, help service leavers transition or from translating your military to civilian, getting people to accredited courses. Currently, I'm sitting at 85% pass rate on NEBOSH courses. The national pass rate is between 45 and 55%. So that proves military personnel can still do these high rated courses, because I'm getting 85%, which is top tier. And I want to continue to grow that. And I want to bring instructors, ex military, to be able to deliver that at the same time. So there's lots of things in the background, videoing, kind of consultancy, training,
Yeah,
and kind of breaking out into the bigger world as such. This it's a big world in a very small place, if that makes sense.
yeah,
It's
yeah. No, it
everything.
does.
I think.
And then, kind of last kind of advice for someone looking at transitioning or about to step into that. What advice do you have for them?
Don't wait till your last 2 years. Okay, if you've just joined the military, start resettling. Right, you've got so much funding. You got standing learning credits every year, £175. There's hundreds and thousands of people not using that £175 to do a course. You've got the enhanced learning credits, depending on how long you've done. If you've done 6 years, you got like 3 lots of 1,000. If you've done 8 years, you get 3 lots of £2,000. Use them early. Have a plan. Think about, whilst you're in the military, think about, what am I going to be when I grow up? Even if you've just done 6 months, have that plan and have it in your back of your mind. Unless you're going to go for commissions, then if you get commissioned, that's a bonus, and that's something that you want to do, go for it. But not everybody reaches that level. Not everybody can have that 36, 37-year career. You're going to probably get out your 22, maybe up to 26-year point. I think they're starting to extend it. But have a plan. Own it. Go to the Forces Transition Group show. Go and visit the businesses. There's about 65, 70 businesses there, and you can book 10 minutes with them to find out what you need to do. It's because after so many years, you can ask them loads of questions. There's no ties. They're there to help support and give you advice. And listen to advice, write a bit of a plan, have an action, and go out and do it. If you have to do things for free a little bit to get a bit of experience, do it. That's how I did it. And then eventually you can start earning good money and have that drive. Just don't think that the military is there. And I know that everybody's very loyal to the military, and you are when you're serving, because you are, because that's all you know. That's everything that you do. But I was a name on a board somewhere, right, on the RQ board, right, 5, 6 years ago. I guarantee you that board's been replaced. Yeah,
Oh,
my
yeah.
name no
Yeah.
longer there. So you got to think of yourself. You've got to plan, think for yourself, be that hunter, go out there and have a goal, and you can 100%, everybody 100% can achieve what you want to achieve. Don't set yourself a limit. Just go beyond that limit and keep driving and driving and driving. Resettle, resettle, resettle. Use all the funding the military give you. Everything, every penny, because that's what it's there for. And not everybody uses, especially those standing credits. Nobody uses them. There's people done 37 years, never used £175 a year. So if you think about
That's
37
mad.
times £175, that's a lot of money that's gone down the drain. A lot. You're talking about thousands there, aren't you? But look after, fund yourself. Look after yourself. And that's the only thing. And reach out to people. Network. Be bold. Just reach out. Mate, any chance you can help us here or give us a bit of advice? And if they say no, then you've got nothing lost. If they say yes, then you've
No,
got
exactly.
everything to gain.
All you can do
You've
is
got
say
everything to
no.
gain. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've got everything to gain. So, own it, take it, steal it, and live it. I've just kind
Yeah.
of made that one up.
Fantastic. No, well, brilliant, Steve. Thank you very much for your time today. And I hope people listening resonates with them and they go, well, actually, yeah, I like that idea. And I think you're not the first to say about starting early. Get that planning in. Understand, because for you're lucky. It was a choice to leave. Whereas sometimes it's you don't get that choice, and then it's, oh crap, I don't have a plan. Whereas if you might have workings of a plan, you might not be a full plan yet, but at least you've got something to start with. So yeah, very good advice. Yeah, so thank you again for giving us your time today. I really do appreciate that.
Well, welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, cheers. Thanks.